So, hey, I'm back with um, life stories. I'm back with sharing what I know out of my 56 years of life. Um, I've always found life an interesting playground. I don't understand it sometimes, but I have seen lots of miracles. I have seen lots of evidence of supernatural. I've seen the spirit world. I've seen, for me, the back of God. I've seen Christ. He is one of my greatest teachers ever. I just find life such an interesting playground. People seem to have a lot of head knowledge and feel like they know so much. And in a world where we have to be so careful of verbiage and everyone's offended of everything, I find it so strange. I find that when we have head knowledge, we do know something and we're academically smart, and that is awesome. But when we are trying to co create and create and manifest, it's got to be heart knowledge. You know, head knowledge is when we're reading the book or we've heard someone speak and we've memorized it and we know it. Heart knowledge is when you no longer have to practice it, it comes natural for you. Meditation at this season of life is natural for me. Prayer is natural for me, but it hasn't always been. Used to getting into what I call the zone, going through the vortex, getting in the sacred place of the heart took time. It took some time and energy, a lot of sabbaticals of saying, screw that, it can't be real. Um, but it is, and it's practice and it's discipline, and you learn to honor that time. Before I ever get out of bed, I pray the 91st Psalms over my children. I have since my middle kid, Becca, who's now um, 28, I think, was an infant. Someone said that that is a prayer of protection. I grew to believe that beyond a shadow of a doubt, and I still say it over my children and grandson and my mother and I every single day. Um, but I learned that you've got to be so careful. I used to hold a meeting for women, and we called it Healing the Wounds of Our Hearts. And it was just for women. I specialized in women when I saw clients. But I used to start out my meetings with God, Goddess, Universe, Holy Spirit, Great Spirit, Mother Earth. And the list went on, Jesus, Buddha. So whoever you resonate with, do that. If my verbiage is not good for you, change it to your verbiage. But a lot of this is my life stories. It can't be altered because I've experienced it. So I share a lot. My family has always gone, oh, story time, story time. My children can complete my stories for me. My friends, I have some very dear friends that are very cordial in life to listen over and over. Some of them are in awe, and some of them are, oh my gosh, we're going to tell the story again. But some of my life stories, as yours have, are phenomenal. They're phenomenal. They reassure that there's a higher power. For me, it's God. It's Jesus. I am a Christ follower. I am not a religious follower. I'm a Christ follower. What a great teacher. What a master of this earth he was. So, you know, take all my stories the way you want to, learn from them. If you don't resonate with them, discard them. I am doing this for me. I've been called, as many people, to write a book. I have trouble disciplining myself to writing. I'm not a good typist. I tried getting the dragon that dictates for you. Doesn't know what I say. I think it's because my voice is gravelly and has no clue what I'm saying. I can say this and it records this. So my baby child, who is now 26, has tried to help me with it over and over 15 years ago, and I'm going to make videos. So I pray that someone gets something out of my life stories, out of my interaction with angels, out of my interactions with demons, out of my interactions with growing spiritually, out of my interactions of taking sabbatical, of wild turns in life. It's just the way that it is. It's the journey. It is not perfect. Sometimes it's very harsh. Sometimes it's very hurtful. Sometimes it is so joyous and wondrous that you can't help but love every minute of it. I believe that we do know so much in our heart. As I continue on with meditation and prayer and study and spiritual guides and my angels, I learned just in this week, I've learned so much more than I ever knew that I knew. And what I mean by that is we are told that we already know all these things. And we have come back to earth to relearn them, to remember them, but they're already embedded in the sacred place of our hearts. So with this said, I tell you what, there's a lot of things to learn. There's a lot of things that you think you know that later in life you have to discard. But for that season, it got you to the next level. And that's cool. You don't have to stand firm that you learned this in your 20s, but it no longer fits in your 40s and 50s. It's okay to grow and discard what you originally thought to be the right path or the right way. It happens all the time, let me assure you. And then the sabbaticals of falling back, stepping back, stopping because it gets too deep. I always say when we learn something, then we have to practice it before it's heart knowledge. So you take that season to learn how to manifest or learn how to pray or learn how to meditate. And then you take that season to master it. Most people just keep moving, they never master it. And today in a world again of perfect verbiage, we have a lot of spiritual people that are taking on the spirituality and filling their ego with it. They know more than most, they've discovered more than most, and I do believe they know something. But if it is pumping your ego, you're no longer in that sacred place in your heart that we need to come from. Our body is so complex. We know for a fact that we're energy. I'm a Reiki master. Woo! I am a ordained minister. I can lay hands on people. Woo! I am therapeutic touch. I am EFT. I got all the things that I could try to reach people verbiage, but I am here to tell you that I believe it's all the same thing. We call it something different every time. We know that we are energy. We know things are based off frequency and vibration. We know these things. We know that this is a physical body. We know we have a spiritual body. We know that there is light. We know there is darkness. When Sally, my sister, passed, she said to me, Pookie Jane, which is what she called me, I called her Birdie. She said, Pookie Jane, the frequency of the chimes is like the frequency of the water. And she was pretty delirious. It was the day she passed. She was a yoga instructor. She never ate processed foods. She was slender, fit, gorgeous, and died of colon cancer. So you just never know how you're going out in the timing. But she said the frequency of the chimes is like the frequency of the water. And I said, what, Birdie? And she said, the frequency of the chimes is like the frequency of the water. Well, I had been on a 6-year self-destructive sabbatical, and I was just coming back to what I know my path to be. And that just opened up a whole new study for me. Sally has been gone on April 11th for 2 years. But through her moving on to the next universe, the next life, the next parallel energy system, heaven, whatever your verbiage is, it got me looking into things again. So I love that. So we have embedded in our DNA, in our heart, what we're called to do. We all have a calling. We're all here for a purpose. We all don't find that purpose because we let life trauma stop us. We let just whatever. It's hard. It's dedication. It's discipline to find that deep calling. Look at Christ. Look at Buddha. Look at Yogananda. Look at our other teachers that truly mastered the quiet, the sacred place of the heart. Most of us only think with our head, and then we feel emotion with our heart. So we do a lot of crying. I cry really easy. I cry all the time. Watch a commercial, tell a story, talk about Sally, talk about Dad, talk about my kids, my grandson. Oh, I'll cry. The commercials, Hallmark, oh, I'm gone. But what does excite me is the mysteries of life. Sometimes I cry over those. We go around the same mountain until we learn what we're supposed to learn. Some people don't ever recognize that. You just keep going around the same mountain, different places, different people, but same circumstance, same lesson to be learned. And people spend a lot of their life, me included, repeating history over and over and over and over again, because we're not paying attention to what we're supposed to get from that piece of knowledge, that season of life. So we carry it on. And then I do believe in reincarnation. I believe that we will come back and we will keep learning until we master what we're supposed to remember. And I do think when we go back, we remember and we come back and do it again. But there is a part of me that has been determined since my youth to figure out the miracles, the manifestation of life. I've seen some, and I have so much more on in my videos. I will tell you stories that left me in awe. Hopefully will leave you at least in wonderment, if not awe, about miracles and supernatural things that to the physical body is not humanly possible. But we're here again to learn what we need to know. Once again, that we came in with, that we lost. It's just so confusing all the time. So people get mixed up in religion and spirituality, and they feel like there's just one way to pull it off. But we have thousands of books out there, don't we? We have all the spiritual books now. Of course, Christians have the Bible. There's just so many that lead us in different ways. I love the Dead Sea Scrolls. We've read from Greg Braden to Louise Hay to Edgar Casey to, the list goes on. Abraham and Hicks. The list goes on and on and on and on. So there's plenty of people to resonate with, to learn from, and there's not just one person that has all the answers. We have had very few masters here on this earth that truly, truly mastered it. My heart desire is to learn it. To learn how to walk in peace and love no matter what the circumstance, how to manifest and create miracles and see healing. What did Jesus Christ said? He said you would do this and so much more, referring to the miracles that he performed. How awesome is that? It's not because he was just magic. He knew how to work the earth. He knew the human body, the light body, the spirit body. He mastered it. He stayed in prayer and meditation. Remember, we think that he just came down and did all these great things. He stayed in prayer and meditation. He studied. He learned the word from the scriptures, which have been changed dramatically. He knew the energy system. He knew the vortexes of the earth. He recognized spirits. He recognized demons. Some people said there is no bad here, that we created. Perhaps that's not my theory, but if it's yours, I honor that, and that is awesome. I've seen too much evil in the spirit world, and I've seen too much good in the spirit world. So what we're here to do is discern our life, discern people. We got to remember that we are in a physical body. We are spiritual beings. So not only do we have to maintain this physical body, which mine is pretty heavy right now, Um, Food is my outlet. I hate that, but it has been in the past. So right now I'm changing my energy, trying to change that. It's a season of learning not to eat pie. I love pie. So it's a season of trying not to do those things. I've given up Cokes, and these are things to try to make my body clear, my temple empty again, where I can fill it up with goodness. I spent 6 years not doing that. Um, so I pray every day. Again, I weed people. I love you. If you do not um, build me up, or I do not build you up, or our season is over, I take you, and I call it weeding. I don't hate you. I'm not mad at you. It's just no longer serving my higher purpose. And I call it the season being over. Now, I do have friends from the past that used to ask me if I was going to weed them. And again, you see my cute little dog. It's Bella Ann. She's 16. Um, but, you just got to eliminate in life which no longer serves you in your higher purpose. And it's just the way that it is. So, with that said, I have a little paper here that I'm trying to remember things. I've written this book for almost 20 years, and I add to it, and some things are handwritten, some things are typed, which takes me forever. I just have so many stories I want to share with you that assures you that miracles are real. When I got into seeking, I was young. I saw spirits. I saw auras around people, colors. I noticed they changed with moods and energy that when people walked in the room. I began praying at a young age, meditating at a young age, playing with crystals. One of my sisters and I played with crystals, and I have such a collection of crystals. The energy force around the crystals create this, line up with the energy of the center of the earth, and it creates this healing field. And then colors, color therapy, have a healing effect on you at all. And when people get worried about crystals, the Christian family, that we got to remember that not only are rocks mentioned all throughout the Word of God, but the high priest wore their ephods. They had 12 crystals in their ephods representing the 12 tribes of Israel, but each rock was believed to have a healing modality. I have done crystal therapies for clients for years, as well as read cards. I have a session that is called Haimo Zen. Means life balance. I don't practice right now, but it incorporates massage, Reiki, energy work, laying on of hands, prayer, meditations, crystals, hot stones, hot seashells, warm shells, aromatherapy. I am a licensed aromatherapist as well. I taught aesthetics and massage for a lot of years. I've taught meditation. My favorite is walking the labyrinth. So there's just so much to do, so much to learn. There's things to learn about mentally, emotionally, physically. So I hope in this time that we talk about all these things. I will repeat stories. If you've heard it, tell it with me. I have recognized people that I've never met before, that I recognize them by their eyes. I know them, and I know you have too. We see people, and it's like, oh my gosh, I know them. Usually people refer to me as Linda. My name is Jewel, or Julie. But I have more people come up and call me Linda my entire life. It is just priceless. One time my daughters and I were in New Orleans, and a lady was yelling Linda, and my oldest child was stationed in Gulfport, Mississippi. Thank you for serving our country, Jenny. And someone was yelling Linda, Linda, Linda. And my kids were laughing. They're going, Linda, she's calling you. And I'm going, I'm not turning around. And the lady caught up with me, and she touched me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and she goes, oh, you're not Linda. And I was like, no, we must have known each other another life. But I've been with 3 different people in my life that have the same spirit. They come different seasons, and it's not a kind spirit. I recognize it by their eyes. I, in the past, have got mixed up with it every time. It comes and flatters me. When I meet these people, we make eye contact, and the energy, the buildup is so wonderful. And all three people through the seasons of life have told me I'm the love of their life. All three people I met through eye contact and felt like I knew them. And all three people became a very unhealthy environment for me. And there again, one of them lasts 20 years, one of them lasts 2 years, and one of them actually lasts about 6 months. As I would grow, I would not play as long. The 20-year one was a marriage and kids are involved, so you do different things for that. But that was my greatest spiritual walk of learning. But we'll get to that later. There's so much more. When I was young, 16, we went to Cancun. My parents traveled a lot with us, and we were blessed. I think on the last video, I don't know, that I told you about South America and how much I loved it. And we went to Machu Picchu, and we went to the Sandblast Islands. And so when I'm 16, we go to Cancun. And my dad took my sisters and I, two of my sisters and I, and one of his nurses that worked for him and her son. And we went to Cancun, and we ended up meeting two other guys there. And so there was 3 girls and 3 guys. And Cancun was not touristy at all. I wish I could find my photo album. And the beaches were clear and the white sand. And there was very limited hotels. Remember, this is the 70s. And we were on the beach, and Sally and Gretchen and the 3 guys were in the water swimming. And I have always been a sun goddess. Yes, it's bad for my skin. I taught aesthetics for a lot of years. I know this, but I love the sun. I love the sun. And I'm laying out on the beach, and as they're coming in to the shore, I'm going out to the water. Well, I was a very good swimmer, but I got in an undertow, and I had never been in an undertow before. And I didn't know at that time to lay flat and you would float out of it. But so I'm fighting the undertow, and I'm yelling at Sally and going, Sally, I'm in an undertow, come get me. Well, she can't hear me, and all she sees is my arms waving, and she's yelling back, Pookie Jane, we don't want to get in the water. And the next thing I know, I look up, and please forgive me for saying this, but I was 16, and I'm not going to change the story for verbiage, so please forgive me, because later on in another story, it will make a difference. So I look up, and there, I hate to say this, but there was this big, fat Mexican in a red Speedo. Long black hair, and it was kind of pulled back, walking towards me, and he reached his hand out, and I took his hand, and he pulled me out of the undertow. And I looked down and got my bearings on a sandbar, and when I looked up to thank him, he was gone. He wasn't there. The only people on the beach this time was Sally, Gretchen, and the 3 boys. And he wasn't there. And I swam back to shore, and I said, Sally, oh my God, I was in an undertow. And did you see the big fat Mexican in the red Speedo? He pulled me out of the water. And Sally said, Pookie Jane, there was no one else on this beach but us. Well, later on, the last 2 years, he's come back into my life. And it's an interesting thing. I'll share that later. But so that was another supernatural experience that I would think about a lot. That how he just came and pulled me out of the water. And I know if you've been to Cancun outside the 60s and 70s, now it's hard to imagine that the beaches were basically empty. But they were. It's just crazy. I think there was like 4 or 5 hotels, and that was it. I mean, it was just crazy. But I was just so fascinated that no one else saw him, that he saved my life, literally. And later on in life, I would not know this, but he reappears. So that was a interesting angel story. Now, another story that is not so happy is when I was 16. 12 and 16 seemed to be really crazy years for me. Is I had a Pacer. All my sisters had driven the Pacer. We partied in the Pacer. If you don't know what a Pacer is, it's a car. Look it up. Look at Wayne's World. Party time. But my friend and I were in the Pacer. And we had gone to the liquor store. 16, 18 was the drinking age, but that is a privilege of having older sisters because you have their IDs to go to the liquor store in Dallas, Texas, and buy liquor. The same guy sold me alcohol from age 16 to 18, and when I turned 18 and I went in there to celebrate that I was 18, poor Bill, he was shocked. But I always looked older and had my sister's ID, so we partied on. But Renee and I, a friend, we had gone to the liquor store and got Southern Comfort and Coke. And we had stopped at what we called the duck ponds. It was by our house, and everyone partied there, played frisbee there, walked their dogs there, and it was a meeting place for us. But we had smoked something called African Orange. I don't know what it was, but we were high. And we got back in the Pacer, and we had just poured our first drinks. And we're going up a road, it's called Northgate, and we poured our first drinks, and all of a sudden, my foot is being held down on the gas. Hard to believe? My foot's being held down on the gas. And I tell Renee, I can't get my foot off the gas. It won't lift up. My foot won't get off the gas. And the next thing I know, we hit a curb. We hit a light pole. Later, I find out we hit a lot of mesquite trees. And we stop right before we go in a house. Well, needless to say, and these are our first drinks that we have just poured, our drinks are all over us. I wake up. Renee's no longer a passenger in my car. I have a metal bar coming out of my head, out of my elbow. I would have to find it now at my age to find it, and out of my knee. My steering or my dashboard was pulled out, steering column cut in half, steering wheel in half. But I wake up and have to pull this out of my head, my arm and my knee, and I start to panic that I've killed Renee. And I'm screaming, oh my God, I've killed Renee. And I can't open my door. And at this time, I don't realize the whole outside of the door is gone, and it's just a thin piece of metal on the inside. So as I pull these out, I get out of the passenger side where Renee is no longer. And I remember screaming for her, and I couldn't find her. And the next thing I know, I wake up, I have crossed a busy road. Well, it was called Northgate, and, not busy like we know busy today, and I'm laying on the sidewalk, and a girl that, there's no reason I should know her, I probably met her once, was saying, Julie, do you know who I am? And I was like, yeah, you're Kelly Lee. I know who you are. And I said, I've killed Renee. And she was like, no, Renee's right here. The ambulance is on his way. And of course, I'm pouring blood. And we went to the emergency room. Renee got in the ambulance with me. I don't remember the ride. I just remember feeling very thankful that I did not kill Renee. We go to the emergency room. Back then, they did not test for alcohol. Daddy he was a doctor, just met us at the hospital and assumed that I was drunk. He had them sew up my head, 80 stitches, without any kind of lidocaine or numbing stuff. And I was telling Daddy, I'm not drunk. And he insisted that I was. And I remember throwing up on the doctor's shoes, which Daddy was not impressed with that either. So I've had 80 stitches on this side from a horse wreck when I was 12, 80 stitches on this side from a car wreck when I was 16. Not looking good. But so anyway, Renee, thank God, only hurt her middle finger. And the last time, it's been years since I've talked to her, although I think we're friends on Facebook. She only lost feeling in her middle finger. Oh my gosh, I was so thankful. So thankful. And when They were taking me to x-ray. They had already x-rayed Renee. They sewed me up. Um, she had said that that was the only finger she lost feeling in, and of course we laughed. My father was not impressed with the flipping of the finger and us laughing when we were in the hospital. But the story that Daddy told is that we were very, very drunk, and I totaled the pacer. I did total the pacer, but I took out a street sign. I took out mesquite trees. I took out a lamppost, and I stopped before I went through a house because a cement block stopped me. I'm not sure what that cement block was, but that's what stopped me. I'm not bragging. I feel blessed that I didn't die. But I do tell you this with all sincerity, that something was holding down my foot. I stand by that, 56, almost 57 to this day, that something was holding down my foot. And it couldn't have been something good, because I felt like at age 12, somebody was trying to take me out. And that sounds so silly, I know, but the plane fell, the horse accident. At 16, I get in the car wreck, I get in the undertow, and it was just a bizarre happening. But these are the onsets of my spiritual experience. This is about 30 minutes now. I'm going to stop. I don't think that people want to listen longer than that. And again, I hope you learned something. Thank you for letting me share. Always say, story time, story time. I've got so many awesome stories of miracles. Keep praying, keep meditating, keep searching. There's a sacred place in your heart that we dwell, that we meet our teachers. That is where we manifest from. Mine is full of gold and purity, and that's another story in itself that I'm discovering here lately. But be blessed. I honor you. I honor your path. May we learn from each other. Blessings.